In the shadows of imperial courts and the grand halls of power, the stories of the royal daughters often remain untold. Today we uncover the lives of the daughters of Friedrich III, women who were born into privilege yet shaped by the tides of history. Join us as we explore their personal triumphs, struggles, and the legacy they left behind in a world defined by politics, family, and duty. Charlotte, Duchess of Saxe-Meiningen, was born Princess Charlotte of Prussia on the 24th of July 1860, only 19 months after the birth of her older brother William. Her birth was an easy labour. She was the last grandchild to be born during the life of her maternal grandfather, Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. During wintertime, Charlotte and her siblings lived in Berlin, and they spent their summers in Potsdam. In 1863, Charlotte's parents bought a run-down property and refurbished it into a farm, which allowed the family to live a simple country life periodically. Due to her father's position in the Prussian army, Charlotte's father was often away from home. Her mother was strict with her children, expecting them to exhibit moral behaviour at all times. She raised her children in English-style nurseries and fostered a love of her native country in several of her children by incorporating aspects of English culture into the home. Victoria and Charlotte developed a strained relationship. Charlotte was indifferent to education, much to the dismay of Victoria. Victoria was brutally honest and rarely hid her thoughts. She would admonish her children when they displeased her. Charlotte proved to be a disappointment to her mother, being nervous and easily agitated. This caused a wedge to form in the mother-daughter relationship. After the deaths of Charlotte's younger brothers, Sigismund and Waldemar, Charlotte grew resentful of her mother's treatment towards her. Victoria indulged her younger children, Viktoria, Sophia, and Margaret, while being harsh to her older children, William, Charlotte, and Henry. Charlotte was one of her paternal grandparents' favourite grandchildren. They spoilt her and encouraged her rebellion against her parents. Charlotte also had a close relationship with her brother William, but they grew apart after his marriage to Augusta Victoria of Schleswig-Holstein. Charlotte did not like Augusta Victoria, describing her as plain, slow, and shy, and this strained the siblings' relationship. As Charlotte grew into a young woman, her behaviour became more erratic. She would flirt, spread malicious gossip, and cause mischief for those around her. When she was 16, she became engaged to her second cousin, Prince Bernhard of Saxe-Meiningen. She reportedly fell in love with him while they were driving with her eldest brother. William sped up during the drive, which alarmed Charlotte, and she clung to Bernhard's arm. After a year-long engagement, the couple were wed on the 18th of February 1878. They moved into a small villa near the News Palace in Potsdam. A year after their wedding, Charlotte gave birth to their only child, Princess Theodora, on the 12th of May 1879. Charlotte hated the restrictions placed on her while pregnant and decided that Theodora would be her only child. Charlotte enjoyed society and freedom. She spent much of her time socializing, skating, gossiping, and hosting dinner parties. She would often leave her daughter in the care of her mother, Victoria. Charlotte's grandfather, William I, granted Charlotte and Bernhard a villa in Berlin and transferred Bernhard to a regiment in the city. In 1888, her grandfather and father both passed away, and her brother William ascended the throne in June 1888. Charlotte's social influence increased as a result. She surrounded herself with young officials, wild nobles, and aspiring diplomats. Charlotte reconciled with her mother following the death of her father, but she still took her brother's side in disputes with their mother. Between 1891 In 1895, hundreds of scandalous letters were sent to prominent members of the Prussian court, including the Emperor and Empress. These letters included pornographic images and accusations. They were all written in the same handwriting. Willem ordered an investigation, but the writer was never identified. Many historians have speculated that it could have been Charlotte or the Empress's brother, Duke Ernest Gunther of Schleswig-Holstein, who wrote the letters. Charlotte's diary was lost during this period and was eventually given to Willem. In the diary, she wrote both family secrets and critical thoughts of her family, and Willem never forgave her for the contents of the diary. After this, Bernard was transferred to Breslau, and this effectively exiled Charlotte and her family. As Charlotte's daughter, Theodora, grew up, several men asked for her hand in marriage. In 1897, Theodora became engaged to Prince Henry XXX of Rus, and they were wed a year later on the 24th of September, 1898. Though not rich nor high-ranked, Theodora was happy with the match. Charlotte and Theodora did not have a good relationship, and Charlotte disliked Henry. Theodora wanted children, unlike her mother, but was unable to conceive. This pleased Charlotte, who desired no grandchildren. Both Charlotte and Theodora were strong-willed, and for almost a decade the mother and daughter did not talk nor write to each other. Eventually they did, after Theodora underwent a dangerous operation to help her conceive, which outraged her mother. In June 1914, Bernard became the Duke of Saxe-Meiningen. The First World War broke out, and Bernard left for the front, while Charlotte remained in the duchy, serving as a figurehead. Throughout Charlotte's adult life, she suffered from many health issues, including rheumatism, joint pains, headaches, and insomnia. During the war, Charlotte's health worsened, and she began to experience increasingly worse pain that became so severe that she took opium. The war ended in 1918, and so did the German Empire. Many of the German duchies, principalities, and kingdoms also came to an end. Saxe-Meiningen was no different, and Bernard was forced to abdicate. In 1919, Charlotte travelled to Baden-Baden to seek treatment for her heart, and she died there from a heart attack on the 1st of October 1919 at the age of 59. She was buried at Schloss Alstenstein. Victoria was born on the 12th of April 1866 in Potsdam. Victoria's mother chose to raise her younger children herself instead of leaving them in the care of tutors and governesses, as she had done for Victoria's older siblings, Willem, Charlotte, and Henry. For this reason, Victoria and her younger siblings, Waldemar, Sophia, and Margaret, were very close to their parents. In 1879, when Victoria was 13, her younger brother Waldemar died from diphtheria, bringing the younger three sisters closer together. Growing up, Victoria and her siblings lived in Potsdam and Berlin. In 1871, her grandfather William I became German Emperor, and her parents became the Crown Prince and Princess of Germany. Her parents raised their children away from the Berlin court, who disliked the crown princely couple for their liberal beliefs. They hoped to instill these beliefs in their children through an education system similar to the one Victoria's mother had been raised in herself. Much of Victoria's childhood was based on an English upbringing. She was raised in a warmer, less strict environment to that of her older siblings, and Victoria became an active and enthusiastic child. As Victoria grew older, the question of a husband was raised. Her grandmother, Queen Victoria, and her mother, Victoria, both suggested Prince Alexander of Battenberg, a brother of Prince Henry of Battenberg, who was married to Victoria's aunt, Princess Beatrice. Alexander had been chosen as the reigning prince of Bulgaria in 1879. Alexander visited the Prussian court in 1881, and Victoria fell head over heels in love with him. Victoria's parents were eager for the marriage, but William I, Victoria's grandfather, and Chancellor Otto von Bismarck were against the match. They felt that the Tsar of Russia, Alexander III, would be offended by the marriage because Russia and Bulgaria were not on good terms. Victoria's father became the German emperor in 1888, and it was hoped that Victoria and Alexander would be allowed to marry. But Victoria's father died only 3 months later. Victoria's brother William became the emperor, and on advice from the Chancellor, he refused to give permission for the marriage. The princess was forced to give up on the possibility of marriage to Alexander. As time went on, Victoria became convinced she would never marry. She was not considered to be conventionally beautiful, and she took matters into her own hands to improve her appearance. She developed an eating disorder, starving herself, and it greatly concerned her relatives, especially her mother. Her mother sent her to Britain to recover and spend time with her English relatives. In June 1890, when Victoria, her sister Margaret, and their mother Victoria visited Princess Marie of Wied, Victoria met Prince Adolf of Schaumburg-Lippe. Due to bad weather, Victoria and the other guests spent much time indoors, and during this time Victoria and Adolf got to know each other. They became close and eventually married on the 19th of November 1890. Victoria did not love him and only married him so that she would not end up alone. They had a long honeymoon, travelling throughout Europe and the Mediterranean. After suffering a miscarriage early in their marriage, they never went on to have any children. They had a peaceful marriage and were respectful to each other. Adolf and Victoria moved into a new classical palace bought by Adolf called Palais Schaumburg in Bonn. Victoria was often alone there as Adolf was busy with his military duties. She took up hobbies of decorating, tennis and gardening to pass the time. However, the excessive loneliness caused Victoria to fall into depression, and to gain some control over her circumstances, she resumed her drastic dieting. From 1895 to 1897, Adolf was regent of Lippe for Alexander, Prince of Lippe, who had an intellectual disability. Victoria greatly enjoyed her public responsibilities as the wife of the regent, and her mental health improved during this time. Despite being told he was next in line, Adolf was passed over as regent and prince. In 1898, Victoria's mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she succumbed to the disease in August 1901. Victoria's grandmother, Queen Victoria of the United Kingdom, also passed away that year. The First World War greatly distressed Victoria. She adored Britain and was sympathetic to the British cause. During the war, her husband died in 1916. Her brother-in-law, the King of the Hellenes, was deposed in 1918, and she, along with other German nobles and royals, lost their titles under the new Weimar Republic. Her finances began to dwindle, and she wrote a memoir in 1929 to generate some income. In 1927, Victoria met Alexander Zubkov, a Russian immigrant studying law at the University of Bonn. Victoria became infatuated with the young man, 35 years her junior, and spent lavishly on him. He proposed to her only 2 months after meeting her, and without asking permission, Victoria married him. She renounced her titles in order to do so, and they wed on the 19th of November 1927. It was a royal and society scandal. Soon, Alexander spent large amounts of Victoria's fortune, and combined with his public misconduct and financial troubles, led to his deportation from Germany. He moved to Luxembourg and worked as waiter. Though Victoria had supported him at first, by 1928 she separated from him. Her own financial struggles caught up to her, and she was forced to auction off nearly everything she owned. She moved into a single rented room in the suburbs of Bonn and filed for divorce, causing yet another scandal. Soon after, Victoria fell ill with pneumonia. Her brother, Wilhelm and her sister Margaret attempted to contact her, but both were unsuccessful, and she passed away on the 13th of November 1929. Sophia was born on the 14th of June 1870 and was the 7th child of 8 children born to the then Crown Prince and Princess of Prussia. Shortly after Sophia's birth, the Spanish succession was revealed, which damaged Franco-Prussian relations. The relationship between the two countries worsened further when Chancellor Otto von Bismarck, the Prussian Chancellor, published the humiliating Ems telegram. And 6 days later, Napoleon III, Emperor of the French, declared war on Prussia. The German Confederation offered support to Prussia. Around this time, Sophia was baptized, and the event was sad and serious due to all the men present wearing full uniforms. The war lasted only a few months, but led to Sophia's grandfather, William I, being installed as the first German emperor on the 18th of January 1871. Sophia's childhood was mostly happy. She was nicknamed Saucy due to big age gaps between the older and younger children of the crown princely couple. Their parents grouped them into 2 different groups. William, Charlotte and Henry were grouped into one group and were favourites of their paternal grandparents, while Victoria, Valdemar, Sophia and Margaret were grouped together and were favoured by their parents. Sophia and the younger children of the crown princely couple were largely ignored by their paternal grandparents, and Sophia's early years were shaped by her parents and grandmother, Queen Victoria. Sophia grew attached to her grandmother, and Victoria, the crown princess, did not hesitate to leave her daughter in her grandmother's care for extended periods of time. In 1887, Queen Victoria celebrated her Golden Jubilee. At this event, many members of European royalty arrived in England. Sophia met Crown Prince Constantine of Greece and grew close to him. Though not bright, Queen Victoria wrote to her daughter, saying that a good heart and a good character went far beyond that of cleverness. 9 months later, Sophia's grandfather passed away and her father became the German emperor. However, he passed away one day after Sophia's 18th birthday in June 1888. Her older brother William became the emperor. Shortly after her father's death, Sophia and Constantine became engaged. They had the approval of William, but Victoria dreaded sending her daughter so far away and believed that the Greek throne was unstable. Nevertheless, the couple were wed on the 27th of October 1889 in Athens. They had both Greek Orthodox and Lutheran services. They settled into a small villa while their new home, the Crown Prince Palace, was being built. Sophia and Constantine had 6 children together: George, Alexander, Helen, Paul, Irene and Catherine. Catherine was born 9 years after Irene. The Greek, Romanian, Serbian and Spanish royal families all descend from their marriage. They lived a simple life, as the Greek court was far removed from protocol. However, Sophia found life monotonous and had difficulty adjusting to her new life. During her time in Greece, she learned modern Greek, although it took her many years to become completely fluent. And after the birth of their eldest son, Sophia converted to the Orthodox faith. This move was popular among the Greeks and the Greek royal family. Though she had support from her grandmother and mother, the German royal family were largely outraged and against the conversion. Sophia and William were never on good terms from then on. As Crown Princess and later Queen, Sophia took an interest in healthcare, hygiene improvements and the school system of Greece. She was actively involved in social work and led various initiatives to improve the welfare of her new country. In 1896, she founded the Union of Greek Women, which was very active in assisting refugees from the Ottoman Empire. During the 30 Days' War, Sophia and other female members of the Greek royal family actively worked with the Greek Red Cross to help wounded soldiers. She founded field hospitals, visited the wounded, and administered care to the victims of the fighting. The active participation of Sophia and her mother-in-law, Queen Olga, in aiding victims drew admiration from other European courts. As a reward for their efforts, Queen Victoria bestowed them with the Royal Red Cross. After the war, a powerful anti-monarchist movement developed in Greece. Several weeks after the peace treaty was signed between Greece and the Ottoman Empire, the king, George I, was almost assassinated. He was mostly unharmed. As the situation became more tense, Constantine and Sophia moved abroad and lived in Prussia. They later returned in 1899 to Greece. In 1901, both Sophia's grandmother, Queen Victoria, and her mother died. Sophia was deeply affected by the death of both of her closest relatives. On March 18, 1913, Sophia's father-in-law, George I, was assassinated and Constantine became the king. As Constantine I, though popular at first because of his successes in the war against Turkey and Bulgaria, after World War I broke out, the tide turned against him. Greece had signed a treaty with Serbia in 1913, which stated that Greece would help Serbia if attacked by Bulgaria, which happened. This led to disagreements between the king and the government. As a result, Constantine was forced to abdicate his throne in 1917, and his second son, Alexander, was installed as king. Constantine and his family went into exile in Switzerland. The Crown Prince and Prince Alexander were both suspected of collaborating with the Germans. Alexander ruled as king from 1917 until 1920 after dying from a monkey bite. Sophia's third son, Paul, was asked to be king, but he declined, so Constantine was brought back after government change and a referendum was held. Greece was defeated by Turkey in 1922 and Constantine was forced to abdicate again. The following year, Constantine died from a brain hemorrhage. George then reigned from 1925 when he was forced to abdicate, and again in 1936 when the monarchy was restored. He reigned until his death in 1947. Paul was then installed as king. All three of Sophia's sons became kings of Greece. Sophia spent her last years in Florence, Italy. She passed away at the age of 61 on the 13th of January 1932 in Germany. She had been undergoing treatment for cancer. She was buried alongside her husband in Florence. After the monarchy was restored, Sophia and Constantine's remains were transferred to Greece and buried in the royal cemetery at WWII Palace. Margaret was born on the 22nd of April 1872 in New Palace in Potsdam. Margaret grew up in a loving home and was deeply attached to both of her parents. She was one of the most popular members of her family and had good relations with many of her international family members. As she matured into an adult, she was said to have resembled her deceased aunt Alice, Grand Duchess of Hesse by Rhine. When Margaret was 16, her father died of throat cancer and her brother William became the German emperor. As a young woman, Margaret was attracted to Prince Maximilian of Baden, but he did not reciprocate her affection. She turned her attention to Prince Friedrich Charles of Hesse, the future head of the Hesse-Kassel dynasty and future elected king of Finland. They were married on the 25th of January 1893. When they wed, Friedrich was not the head of the House of Hesse-Kassel. His brother was, but he relinquished it in the mid-1920s in order to enter a morganatic marriage. Friedrich was addressed as His Highness, while his wife was addressed as Her Royal Highness. This disparity came to an end in 1925 when Friedrich became the Landgrave of Hesse. At first, Margaret's brother refused to give permission for the marriage, as he felt that Friedrich was too minor of a royal for a Kaiser's sister, but later gave his blessing as he saw Margaret as unimportant too. The marriage was happy and they lived in Schloss Rumpenhain. In 1901, Margaret's mother died and she inherited her mother's house. The family moved into the home. In their marriage, they had 6 sons, including 2 sets of twins: Friedrich Wilhelm, Maximilian, Philip, Wolfgang, Richard, and Christoph. In 1918, Margaret's husband accepted the position of King of Finland, but due to the outcome of World War I, he renounced it. During both the World Wars, 3 of Margaret's sons died. Friedrich Wilhelm and Maximilian died in the First World War. 2 of her other sons, Philip and Christoph, became Nazis, and Margaret even invited Adolf Hitler to tea and flew swastikas from her home. Philip married Princess Mafalda, the daughter of King Victor Emmanuel III of Italy, and due to his close relations to the King of Italy, Philip was appointed to Hitler's personal staff. When Philip realized the true reality of Nazism, he attempted to resign. He was not allowed to do so, so he used his position to provide passports for Jewish people fleeing Germany. After discovering this, Hitler had him imprisoned in a concentration camp along with his wife. His wife died while in a concentration camp. Margaret's 5th son, Christoph, was married to Princess Sophia of Greece, Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh's sister, and he died during a plane crash in 1943. Margaret also lost a daughter-in-law during the war. Princess Marie Alexandra, the wife of Wolfgang, was killed in a bomb attack along with 7 other aide women in 1944. During the Second World War, Margaret took care of her grandchildren and tried to preserve her home at Friedrichshof. After the war, many more difficulties would occur. In 1945, over £2 million worth of jewellery was stolen from her home, and her home was used as an officers' club by the military authorities during the American occupation. The theft was discovered when Princess Sophie wanted to use it for her wedding. The theft was reported and the culprits imprisoned in 1951, but only 10% of the jewellery was eventually recovered. Margaret was the last child of her parents to pass away. She died on the 22nd of January 1954, 14 years after her husband and 53 years to the day after her British grandmother, Queen Victoria. She was 81 years old.